Thank you. Thank you all for your testimony. For most of us, or at least for me, when I think of the Environmental Protection Agency, I think of, touring local farms, factories, that sort of thing. And what they feel are, first of all, rules that are lacking in common sense, causing huge cost of money, perhaps chasing jobs out of America. Now, you guys are not psychologists, but I'll ask you maybe to comment. I wonder, do you think the same apparent psychological problems with the management at EPA, the bullying, okay, the getting revenge on people, not dealing with legitimate questions, but just walking away, is that psychological problem that you are experiencing, do you think those same psychological flaws in the EPA management is what is causing, problems for American business or American landowners?
If I could respond. I believe that when you allow a bullying culture to exist with managers, that those employees who have those tendencies will also act that way towards the public. I also think that is more rare. I think you hear about the worst ones, but on the day-to-day operations, unfortunately, what I've seen is that some of our employees in the field have been harassed and threatened by the public because of the environment towards us. But I think if there are instances of that out there, that the bullying culture definitely lends itself to that.
Well, what I'm saying is I'm extending even to the people who write the regulations that American business, that American farms have to live under. Okay, now a normal human being in writing these regulations would have to realize that when you write them, it's going to be very costly, it's going to result in a lot of ambiguity in the regulations, you're going to create a situation in which individual employees can make subjective decisions that, quite frankly, ruin businesses and ruin people's lives. Do you feel, if this is the culture and the management of the EPA, that these personality flaws are perhaps one of the reasons why we have such onerous regulations coming out of the EPA?
If I may respond.
Yeah.
Yes, I do. You have a culture of arrogance beyond the shadow of a doubt that you could ever see. The arrogance. And when you have that level of arrogance and unaccountability, there's an untouchable field about this individual now. So, yes, I know it transfers over to the public.
And if I could as well address that, I think part of the problem with that is just, I grew up in a town of 400 people, so I know what it's like in rural America. And the rules you come up with in Washington, D.C. just don't always make sense when you get down on the farm. And I think that's a challenge in general. And I think one of the things I would caution you on is that currently the federal government itself is so loaded down with regulations that control us and tell us how we can and cannot do things that it's impossible to operate effectively or efficiently.
Do you think it's possible, and obviously, we're not going to get rid of the entire EPA, but do you think it's possible, given the huge culture of arrogance at the top, apparently covering so many employees, is it possible for the EPA to reform itself and work with American people rather than right now where it is perceived as, I mean, really a problem agency that seems like its sole goal is to harass people and come up with regulations that lack common sense? Are there enough good people less than the EPA that it could even reform itself? Sure, Mr. Harris.
I believe EPA can be reformed, but not without accountability. There's no way you're going to have change and reform without accountability. Until you initiate accountability, do not expect change.
Just one more question. Do you think it would be better, given the huge problems you have, to take at least some of the responsibilities the EPA has and give them back to the various Department of Natural Resources around the country?
They have working in the HR issues, they have what they call a delegation of authority. If EPA cannot perform in a satisfactory manner and eliminate that culture of arrogance, a delegation of authority should be in place to take that authority away and give it to somebody else. This is how you hold an agency accountable.
Thank you very much, Mr. Harris. We'll see if we can do that.